So I hope that you got a good understanding about how to unwrap certain types of geometry and make use of the different unwrapping functions, and then how to map a material onto it. If I go back for a moment to Fusion, you see here I put on the texture, and the shell actually is pretty good, I have to say that. And then there you see the sides. They have some problems. And again, that's because for the for the render engine, it's difficult to understand how do I want this texture to flow along the surface. And if I go to the bent plywood table, even over sometimes, as you can see here, multiple parts, the texture is being continued. The software is smart enough here. But then at the sides, here on this face, there you can clearly see it is simply projected onto the surface. Now for a quick screenshot snap, this type of material texturing will be sufficient, but if you want to have really good presentation of your design, not really, because it's physically fundamentally wrong. Most applications struggle with this one, so Fusion is no exception. That's quite normal. When you work with plastic or metal, you hardly will ever have this problem. But if you have something like a composite material you cut through, or like bent plywood, it's not really as easy. And if you have something like Maya, it's a little bit more advanced to do that. It's also made for texturing and rendering, and that's the reason why I mainly do my product renderings then inside something like Blender, where I simply have not only more control over lighting and materials, but also where to place and how to place actually material. It's a little bit more work, but I think the outcome is also very rewarding. So in the last part of this video now, I would like to actually take a look at the material parts. So as you can see now, I have my background set to white, and I simply did this so I have something to reflect. I also have two lights in addition, and let's select the main material. So if we want to make this one glossy, we know at this point we need a mix shader, we need a Fresnel or layer weight based on what you would like to work with, and then we need a glossy there. I'm going to make this one perfectly smooth and plug it in there. And then there we see now how actually based on my angle I see more reflection of the material or less, and also reflects the environment. Not too bad. Let's actually make a quick copy. So Control C, Control V, and this one go to there. Zip. There. Now we have the same also on the side material. Perfect. Okay. Here's some fun thing. I would like to have some bump mapping now, or specularity. So let's work and focus mainly on this part. Let's see where I have a good reflection value. Maybe like here. Okay. So let's switch this one to the editor, and let's select the material we're using. Nope. Or is it the one? Yeah, that is the one. Okay, good. Now, we would like to have some bumps. We can do the following. And this is a quick hack. So I need to have something black and white. So I can, for example, go to Converter, RGB to black and white. And then I could, if I want to do it that way, use the math node with multiply and simply say this black and white image multiply by 0.1 to maybe give this whole thing a little bit of structure. And there you can see now how actually the reflection is kind of showing that there's some sort of wood structure happening. 0.5, maybe to make it smaller. Okay. So that's for bump mapping. But if, for example, we take a look at wood floors, let's cross fingers that I find something that works. So, for example, here you see some what I would do with bump mapping, all those dents, etc. Also, even those cracks here, I would do that with a bump mapping. And I think, yeah, here you even see other bump maps. So you see those cavities, kind of like. So the highlight is not perfectly even, and it's broken up. But if you also have different types of wood hardness, this might actually mean also that you have different values of reflection on the part. And unfortunately right now I don't find a fitting image. No, that one is not very good. What about here? No. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's look for wood floor specular map. Oh, there. Okay. So what you see here is basically a digital rendering of a wood texture. And one grayscale image is being used to create this fake bump mapping. And one grayscale image is being used to say where is something reflective and where is something not reflective. So that you have a different value of reflectivity all over your wood. So you can actually, oh sorry, let me go back to here because there was an interesting image there. You see, for example, normal, the bump, specular map, diffuse map. You can create those yourself as well. And there are two ways how we can do this. We can use this wood image, turn it black and white, and then with the levels adjust it, and save each one as a separate image. Or we can do it simply this way, and that's the way how I prefer working. So I'm going to create myself a copy and a copy of this one. And copy, move this one in there. And all this I move far away. So now, for example, I can see kind of like this black and white result of this image. Now in Photoshop or Pixelmator, I could use, for example, the levels, for example, to adjust everything. Right now I'm working with colors, or I could use brightness, etc. And save that into a file. And I can do exactly the same in real time in Blender without having to save different images. But that's the wrong one. I want RGB curves. So you see RGB curves are like the levels. And I could, for example, click and push this one down. And you see I make everything darker. Or this way I make everything brighter. I could even clip, for example, the results more. So I'm compressing kind of like what I have, and kind of like what I'm seeing there right now might be interesting to try out. So let me create a glossy. And this glossy roughness I derived through this image. And what you see there basically is now different reflectivity levels of or different roughness. So the reflective values are varied between smooth and rough, but the whole piece is covered. What I want is maybe have someone like this, and certain areas only be reflective and other areas not. So to do that, we can do the following. So see, when I actually move this one down to here, and this one, I move this one into there, everything is still reflective wherever, or everything is reflective and just adjusted by this grayscale image. So I want to somehow influence this mixer via this image. So this one I move down, oops, there, and then there another mixer. So I put it there, there. Whoa, wrong direction, there. And you see actually now kind of like I have 100% of this reflectivity mixed in. Yeah, there you see it. And this image I plug into the mixer. And there it is. So maybe 0.1 to roughen this up a little bit. And just so you see what's going on, I'm taking away this part. So I see way too much of this structure, so maybe I want to compress this even more. Let's delete this point. Ah, there, perfect. Seems like there are some gaps. And what you see there is actually areas which are not reflective. So the way how this basically now works is, we'll make this black and white image, I clamp it, feed this into a mixer, and you see the first entry node for this mixer is empty. So I basically mix nothing together with glossy. And wherever, for example, I have white, I see, I think, the render and the glossy, and where I have black, I have nothing. So think about nothing as being transparent. And then this end result, so it's a transparent material where parts are transparent and then the rest, the opaque, is reflective. We feed into another mixer, mix that together with another diffuse, and there we have it. So this, the reflection value now looks less artificial, super coated, but actually more gives you the feeling of some areas maybe rubbed off, some areas which are deeper inside the wood, they're not as reflective because glossy doesn't get down there. So it works much better, and maybe 0.05 for a little bit of blurriness to the reflection. And yeah. And then either we can use the normal image we had before, or we can also use now this new image we created as the displacement map. Ooh, that's pretty big. So 0.001. 0.01. Uh, 0.005. Okay, good. I'm going to leave it at this. I hope that this actually started to make sense a little bit. And think about everything again, like in Photoshop, when you have layer masks, this image we can use for the texture to give the diffuse material this wood look. This image we can also make, for example, black and white, and we can clamp it and then create this way a black and white image, which we can use either, for example, for the mixer factor as a mask to say where something is glossy, or for example use it as a black and white image to say where something will be three-dimensionally roughened up. This notes actually look intimidating maybe or confusing, but there's really a very strong logic behind it. And pretty much the same way how you work in Photoshop is the way how we can construct materials in Blender with nodes.